Today's episode is brought to you by In My Bag Apparel and Customs. In My Bag is a brand that collaborates with talented artists from across the country to bring some unique and exclusive concepts to life at a reasonable price. For $15 off your first purchase, visit whatnot.com/invite/in_my_bag 2023. That's whatnot.com/invite/in_my_bag 2023 for $15 off your first purchase. And make sure to check them out on Instagram as well at @in_my_bag 2023. Did you know Pablo Picasso died in 1973? 11 years before I was born. Nah, man, I thought that dude died in the 1400s. That's wild to me. 1973, did you know that?
No. I had no idea.
I've been hearing Pablo Picasso since I was like 2 or 3 years old. Like he was the greatest painters and artists of all times. And next thing I know, I found out today that he died in 1973, and I Googled it, and it's accurate.
Hey, I don't even know, dude, bro. I ain't never heard of him before in my life. I'm about to say, where you stay? What projects he live in, man? I ain't never heard of this dude before.
Spain. Pablo Picasso, the famous artiste.
Yeah, I ain't. Nope.
When you get down like that?
Nah, man.
Anyway, we got more important fish to fry. So the birds are back in the bowl, back against the Chiefs. There's a lot to discuss. We got everything going on the ticker right now. Is there anything that you want to start off with, though? Your takeaways from Sunday, either game, really, or do you want to just kind of go through the docket? What do you feel like?
We can do whatever you want to do, man. I'm here for whatever.
All right, man. Well, we got a special surprise for you guys towards the end of the show. We're not going to ruin anything right now, but just stay tuned for the entirety of it, regardless of how long it goes, because Uncle Philadelphia got a surprise for your ass. So, again, Birds and Eagles are back in the Super Bowl. Rematch of a couple of years ago. For one, I'll say this real quick. I'm tired of people telling me that this thing is staged. I'm tired of people telling me that it's rigged, regardless of what the outcome is, either for Philly, mostly for KC. Do you have any landing point on if you think that these games are rigged and staged? Because I'm personally tired of just seeing it throughout the interwebs.
Man, because I've been a football fan my whole life, for the sake of the integrity of the game of football, I most certainly hope they are not.
Well, here's the thing that I
kind of land in the middle, if there's any such place. I feel like with online gambling now, like anything's possible. I've seen things that are questionable.
Sure.
Whether it was I put in some type of damn bad bet or just a bad beat on a bet, and just me thinking, oh man, how the hell did he miss those free throws? On down to what other people show me and stuff like that. And then there's all types of videos and reels online, like stats even sometimes. I mean, I kind of land in the middle. I don't think it's set up, so to speak. But I don't think Vegas doesn't have an influence, if that makes any sense.
No, I think it does. For me, I'm somebody who I question a lot of things. I don't just jump right to the conspiracy theory and say this is why it happens, right? A couple of years ago, every single divisional round was ended by 3 points and with the exact same amount of time left on the clock. Coincidence? Maybe not. But it makes you question it, right? You don't have to jump right to everything is rigged, but it is, bro. That's a wild outcome for every single.
There's a couple things out there to just make you go, at least,
At least Exactly. You don't have to cry wolf. You don't have to say that everything is witchcraft.
Right.
But so the one thing I do want to get into, because there's been a huge controversy, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on, well, I'm sure that we will further down the line, but the one play in the Bills-Chiefs game that is getting a huge amount of traction is the so-called interception, the so-called Xavier Worthy catch. And I had an argument with somebody that I work with. And they're like, how is that not an interception? I said, well, you can't have a catch while you're in the air. That isn't a thing that's possible, right? Because you have to have possession, feet come down.
That makes sense.
I'm okay with if for me, and the ground doesn't have to, the ball can touch the ground and it still be called a catch. Am I wrong or am I wrong? Because I feel like that's still part of the rule now. It can.
Oh, it's it's still part of the rule.
So for me, it's like if they would have called it an incompletion, I would have understood. If they called it an interception, I would have understood. Whatever the call was, to me, it was not egregious enough where it was a terrible call. But I'm so sick of just people wanting to put it all on, well, it's fixed for the rest. Well, if it is, then don't ever bet against the Chiefs because you're a dummy if you do that. If it's all scripted, then don't bet against them.
Honestly, a play like that happened in the Eagles and Rams game a week before. It was kind of a tie possession in the air. They came down with it. The receiver more or less snatched it, but our DB kind of still had his hands on it before he ended up taking it while they were on the ground. I was always told when that happens that tie
goes to the runner.
Offense. That's what I've always been told. I was sitting in my parents' house watching that game because it was after the Eagles game, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go over there and chill for a little bit. And I went over there, and there's not many Chiefs lovers over there. Let me tell you. I'll just put it that way. And my mom looked at me and was like, how the hell is that not an interception? I was like, it's the same thing as baseball. If there's a tie at first base on the throw, the tie's going to go to the runner. If they both have possession, tie's going to go to the offense. So I kind of understood that one. You won't hear no grief from me on that one because they called the same exact thing a week ago in Philly. So that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something where it depends on where do your ideologies and where does your allegiance lie. Are you just so anti-Chiefs? Because this is the thing, I've mentioned this for years now, is that once we get so much greatness in one aspect, we become tired of it, right? And they're not always the same thing, but like Kevin Hart was somebody who everybody loved, and then he got oversaturated. With this whole comparison with the Chiefs, it was when Mahomes dethroned Brady and was putting up video game numbers, it was this guy's the best guy currently to play football. But then when you add other things and other narratives and all this, the Chiefs get all the calls and there's Taylor Swift and all this other just nonsensical bullshit, we're already tired of him. And it's 7 straight conference. Like, I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like a lot of these people wrap up their fanhood too much into who they are and who they identify with and just be like, you're witnessing greatness, bro.
Well, I'm put it to you like this. And this ain't, get your beeper ready. This ain't no bullshit. But I've had more Cowboys fans reach out to me than ever. Like, this has never happened. And
they are Team Eagles, huh?
Hey, man. A couple of them even say, hey, man, don't even tell nobody. So I ain't going to say no names. Regardless if they Cowboys fans, I ain't going to rat them out, man. The rats are no good. But they like, hey, man, you know, we're pulling for you. I'm like, some type of joke or something. Then more and more started saying it. I'm like, oh man, like this whole Chiefs thing is
legitimate,
bro.
The hatred
they're
is
legit. Like they're super hated. As a team that lost to them in the Super Bowl on a I'll call it a timely penalty. And what I mean by that is I've seen worse things through the entire game, and they threw that flag. Was he holding them? Probably. Yeah. Was so at the end of the day, you can say, well, he's holding them and throw the flag. Well, if they've been beating each other up the whole game, and then you call that, it's like, come on, man. But anyway.
There's always a little bit of that. And I think the one call from that Bills game as well that brings me back was I forget exactly who the receiver was. I think it was Shakir going across and was held. And when Josh Allen's in the pocket, he's pointing and saying that's a hold, that's a hold. And that has been my argument with Josh Allen for the last few years, is that he's call hunting. You don't have control over who calls these penalties. You have no idea if they're going to call it. Like they're just play through it, right? Because that's what we were always told, right?
Yeah.
When we were hooping and when we were playing, the thing is like the Chiefs aren't cheating. To me, it's cheating if you're playing one-on-one hoops and it's defense calls fouls and he's hacking all the time and says, no, that's not a foul. That's not what we're doing here, man. But don't be call hunting, play through it because you could have missed somebody. I'm just tired of like he acts like everybody thinks that Mahomes acts like, but he doesn't get any slander. And that's where I come over the top on me coming down with the hammer on. Do y'all see what I'm seeing? Because you aren't holding people to the same accountability standpoint.
Hey man, you better watch that hammer, man. I've been seeing you online pissing a lot of people off about that dude. I usually stay out of it. But it's a joy to read the comments, man. it's entertaining.
I appreciate that because you and I talked a little bit off stage, and I will say I need to apologize whenever I do this, whenever the Bills get in this position. I can sometimes be over the top. I can sometimes be a little bit annoying on that front, and I get it. But I'm honest with it, and I'll tell you this much: I've never wavered on being a flippy floppy simpy on what I think about him, though.
Right?
People change the narrative on him, but they don't do it with Lamar. But basically, Burrow, Lamar, Herbert, sometimes to a degree, Jalen, like these guys get benefits of, oh well, what did you expect him to do? But we don't do it with anybody else. I'm just tired of Allen getting a complete different treatment because he plays the way that Brett Favre does, and we reminisce about those days. But it doesn't mean that he's not without fault. Because his first drive was trash. He was cheeks.
You know, first drives are first. This is coming from a guy whose team didn't score a touchdown in the first drive until like week 12 or something nuts like that.
Is that
I don't know if it was that long, but it was a long time.
For this year?
Yes. Yeah.
That's staggering with that offense.
That's wild,
crazy.
isn't it? You can look it up, man. You know, I know my Eagles football. It was legit for like the first at least 6 weeks. I'm not even joking. Did not score a touchdown. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if they scored many points altogether in the first quarter. Yeah,
this is one of those second half teams that's got things wrong. And I think that's one of the things. But when it comes to football, man, it's like everybody thinks that the game is over in the first quarter, and it's kind of like the whole thing with Tennessee when they had Derrick Henry, and sometimes with Baltimore, he's every single quarter his yards per carry going to go up because he's wearing folks down. It's a 4-quarter game for a reason.
Yeah. Not to go off topic, but you were saying earlier about how you're sick of certain narratives, like just in general. Well, I'm going to put one out there. I'm sick of the narrative that all Eagles fans are mean or trash or scum of the earth or whatever we are this week. You know, at the end of the day, hey, if you don't like us, we don't care.
I'll say this though, man.
But here's the deal.
Yeah.
You get like the Commanders, for instance, like hee ha ha. They put the jersey on the Rocky statue, whatever. But also,
people gotta stop doing that. You just don't.
Whoever does that gets absolutely dismantled. Like, what are you doing? I don't know if that's coincidence or what, but just stop. Please, just stop for your sake.
Right, not for me, but for yours.
But see, like all through online last week, you know, I had Commanders fans making fun of Jalen Hurts when they hurt him because that was a very questionable hit by Lulu, who we all know is a questionable football player when it comes to dirty tactics. He's a good player, but I mean, he's going to take his shots.
See, I didn't even know that about him. I didn't know about that penalty that they could have played had he kept doing what he was doing. I didn't know that was a real thing until like 36 hours ago.
So no disrespect to the Commanders fans, they got a good team, but since it was a blowout, soon as the referee said that, I started looking that up. Like, what? Because I never heard that before either. So I get to looking it up. Yeah, it's a legit penalty. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even believe that myself. But here's my thing: people are making fun of Hurts getting hurt all week. Commanders fans, like, they said some asinine stuff. Like, oh, these couple guys even tried to take over a bar in Philly, and they ended up going to the game, and people recognized them. And once they were walking out of the game, you think they're going to tell you good game? Like,
Yeah,
you
that's
think
not
they're going
happening.
to pat you on the back like, oh, you might get us next time? No, you're going to get treated because when all it takes is you might not be that fan that was talking, smack online or nothing. But once, and this is any fan base, once
Oh, you're guilty by association immediately.
100%. And once a fan sees that online, like me, if I went to the game, I see Commanders fans talking smack all week. You think I'm going to let it slide when I go to the game? Now, I'm not going to throw no damn batteries at you, or I ain't gonna throw no snowballs at you. I ain't gonna try to fight you or nothing. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna let you know because this is what you wanted. You might not have said it, but 30 other people in your fan base did. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to you a little bit. And this happens in every single stadium. It's just that the Eagles get the worst rep for it. It's so weird. Like,
it's weird because, like, but again, it comes down to narrative because what do we hear? Your favorite talking heads tell you that Philly is a bad sports town. It's a great sports town, right? Because they're passionate, but then they're terrible because they're aggressive. Same thing like New York. All I know is though, man, I've seen more people get stabbed at Niners and Raiders games.
bro, somebody literally got killed.
Yeah, that's
A
my
couple
point.
times on the West Coast, a couple times in LA, or might have been San Francisco, maybe, or
Yeah, there was
one of
somebody
those.
at a Niners
Yeah,
game and a Raiders game. And that
but
was
we're talking about people. Oh my God, he yelled at me. Oh
yeah,
boy, he cussed at me. Now that one dude with the Packers,
the Packers game. That was
he
wild.
was out of line. He was 100% out of line. And you know what's crazy? This is what people don't know because a lot of these outsiders aren't in Eagles sports fan group. Eagles fans
Oh
put
no.
that dude's picture up, blew it up, and said, if you see this man, beat his ass.
He got fired.
And he got fired from his job, and he got banned from the stadium. You tell me what other NFL team is going to do that, because I've seen several reels and videos of several other stadiums of people getting cussed out and stuff, and it's not this big, huge thing. You know what I'm saying?
So I didn't see the entire thing. I saw how aggressive he was in his mannerisms. I think that everything that I've seen when it comes to man versus man, that
Yeah.
usually gets kind of swept under the rug because of the fact that it was another woman. I feel like that
Oh, no, that was bad.
optically, that is going to raise some flags.
And that's the type of idiot that gives us a bad rep. And that's why Eagles fans are like, man, if you see him, punch him in his mouth. Because he, now we got another bad thing on the list. Like, geez, but I've seen this in other places, but it's not blown up. Why did that one have to get blown up? Like,
This is why I think it is. It's the same reason why we talk about, and to kind of cross pollinate, when it comes to the Chiefs. When we get to week 15, 16, 17, 18, and your team doesn't matter because they're already out of playoff contention, what else are you going to watch except for playoff races? I mean, this week or this year, that was not the case because the Chiefs had things wrapped up by like 15.
right.
But when you get it into the playoff sphere, there's only so many teams that you can watch. So when you're not watching them, you are going to be fixated on the only teams that are left, which is why Philly, I feel like that is why it got blown out of proportion. Is there's only 2 games you could have watched anyways and one at that specific time.
Right.
So everybody got to see it. So it was elevated.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, there was only 4 games that week. So yeah, I get that part. But I just feel like Philly gets a bad rap altogether. And honestly, man, that's now, of course, I'm an Eagles fan, so of course that helps. But
Right.
one of the better places like I've ever been to. Like as far as like sports and vibes and the crowd, like you can go to a corner pub and watch an Eagles game and have the time of your life. Like in
Yeah,
Philly. I mean, so it is what it is. If you're gonna hate us, whatever. I'm not gonna lose a second of sleep over it, but I just feel like
well,
it's
being in Philadelphia and being a Philadelphia fan is going to help you in that environment. It is when you have the outside sources that are kind of
see, I'm
infiltrating
not I
your
have zero ties. Of the only people I know in Philadelphia are people that I met online or they live outside of Philadelphia. I have zero ties in Philadelphia, and when they find out I'm from Illinois and the Eagles fan, it's just, bruh, hey man, you don't have to pay for nothing. You get treated. I mean, they treat you so good. Like you came all the way here, man, to see our birds. Well, you're a brother now. Yeah, all walks of life treat you that way, man. They don't try to start no trouble with you. They just embrace the fact that you're an Eagles fan from way across the country almost. So
for sure.
yeah.
Well, going with that over into other things that we talk about with thinking fan bases are annoying, right? There's one thing, there's one common denominator for me personally when I look at the talking heads that people say that they hate, right? The guys who get the emblem of can't stand this guy, it's the Stephen A. Smiths, it's Nick Wright, it's Skip Bayless, right? Like that's
Right.
the hierarchy.
Yeah. Well, you got to add Orlovsky and Chris Sims in there too. Now they're starting.
Dude, Orlovsky's been going way ham because apparently he has a
Man,
coaching gig that he's trying to get, and he is just
dude.
cool. But Orlovsky, like to me, he was somebody who I used to enjoy listening to because as somebody I can appreciate, like you still play at the NFL level. Like I know that he's remembered for doing the bonehead play, but he's still entertaining. He's good at what he does on television. But the last like 2 or 3 months has just been completely a different version of him.
Bro might be on that disco dust back there, and man, bro, they're snorting raw coming on ESPN like that because he like a totally different person, man. Like I don't know what's up with that dude, but I mean it's entertaining though because I don't know, man. It's just like he says stuff that I'd never thought he'd say. Like he's just literally coming out of his body, and it's weird, but it's entertaining and funny. So I think you need to add them to the list too.
And you certainly can. I don't watch enough to really put him. I've heard enough over the past month or so that it sounds like he has like some back channel coaching gig he's trying to get, and he's trying to make it sound like he's not criticizing certain folks, but is overly criticizing others to kind of make it seem like he's supposed to be in that space.
Right.
But Chris Sims, I don't listen to Chris Sims.
I don't listen to him enough, but enough of his quotes come on online, and like I'll just click on the comments. I never comment on stuff like that. Usually I'll just click and read, and people just hate that dude. I'm like, wow. Like,
well, where I was coming from mostly with like the top 3, the guys who really get that hate, the Stephen A's,
right. Those definitely are the top 3.
Is because to me, the way that I look at it as there used to be a point where journalism mattered and these guys were supposed to be impartial. But the problem is they're all very outspoken about the teams that they're fans of. And that used to be something that we didn't even tolerate in that space. Right. So with the Chiefs, the Knicks, and the Cowboys, it's for me, if I'm listening to anybody, I actually don't mind listening to Nick Wright. The voice to me gets a little, it's hard for me to listen sometimes. But I do think that he brings a lot of good points without being a complete homer all the time. Whereas Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, I want to turn off the TV the moment I hear either one of those dudes talk.
See, I'm not a huge Nick Wright fan at all. Could I listen to him? Probably. But for how long, I don't know. I like Stephen A. Smith. Like I'm gonna go
in certain capacities, I'm okay with him.
I feel like he just keeps it real for the most part. Now, there's some things that I disagree with him for that it's just not for this podcast. But for the most part, I like listening to him because a lot of times he is speaking the truth. But yeah, there's a couple things I don't totally agree with any sportscaster out there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm with you because like that's the thing for me is I just want people to be able to think for themselves because I feel like that's where we get into this mode of just because X person who is on television tells me this, that means it's true. No, you're allowed to. Your eyeballs work too. You can see what's going on. If it's not what time it is, what time is it?
right. Which brings me to my next point: being true to yourself. Be true to yourself. That means, okay, I'm gonna tell you why a lot of people hate the Chiefs.
I thought you were gonna, yo, the way that you
I'll tell you why. From my perspective, because I'm only 4 hours from Kansas City. I'm 4 hours from Kansas City, about three and a half from Chicago, 4 from Indy, hour and a half from St. Louis. I'm right here. So, bro, where the hell all these Chiefs fans come from?
Same way the Pats got there.
It's so weird to me that now, hey, I'm not hating. I'm not hating on Taylor Swift, who was an Eagles fan, by the way. Look it up. I'm telling you, he used to be.
I don't want to look it up. I don't want to look up anything with Taylor Swift.
Until she got with Travis Kelce. You stole our girl. Hey, you got paid for that too, because she used to be an Eagles fan. But anyway, bro, there's so many controversy with the Kelce brothers around here that it makes you hate them because you know they're not. I can't say they're not real fans, but I can also say that they jumped on when they started winning. Now, I will say a few people. Shout out to my guy, Josh Cummings. Josh Cummings has been a Chiefs fan since we was in high school, and he's a couple grades higher than me. Shout out to Josh Cummings. There's a lady I know, Kelly Rogers. She's always been a Chiefs fan. I bought a Chiefs shirt for this one dude one time, and he never came and picked it up. You know, I was helping the kid out, whatever. Okay. She came by and got that shirt. That was, man, that had to be 2 or 3 years before they even won the Super Bowl. So there are a few like Amber Rieger. I know a few Chiefs fans. That's what I'm saying, because they've always been Chiefs fans. But now all of a sudden there's ungodly amounts of Chiefs fans around here. Like, what? Where did you guys come from? Like, what?
Well, there's multiple layers to this, right? Because one, I understand where most people, especially of the male persuasion, are going to say, well, you have Chiefs fans because of Taylor Swift and Kelce, whatever, right? There's also going to be enough of the male predominant as well saying, well, you're only here because they're good, because they're winning now. But there are like Lions fans. Lions fans have always been Lions fans, but you didn't come out the woodwork and promote it until you were good. And I don't blame you because they were cheeks for so long.
See, all the Lions fans I know were just still hardcore, like, yeah, man, Detroit, but you know, yeah.
Well, that's why I get so irritated with Bills fans, man. I was like, y'all were not part of this until the last like 1,100 days, and I'm not going to.
That's what I'm saying, man. I don't like that, bro. And you know, I'm not the moral police. I'm not the NFL fan police. I'm not. I ain't nothing but a regular dude, just like they regular dudes or females. Like I'm not here to chastise you for it, but I'm just saying that's why folks don't respect it. And that's why a lot of people hate Chiefs fans, because they're like almost like pop culture or something. Like it's
yeah.
And honestly, if I was a Chiefs fan, I'd be kind of pissed about it. Like, that was y'all when we was 3-13. You know what I'm saying? Where was y'all before Andy Reid? Where was y'all this, that, and the third? They can use a million examples of where was you?
The one problem that Chiefs fans had with that one is they went 13-3 before they got Mahomes and then traded up to get him and then got Gridiron Jesus.
You're right. But there's also, you know, I remember a lot of bad Chiefs teams, man.
Oh, they were bad for a minute. Like I only know
these are people that are old enough to remember the bad Chiefs teams, but they know no such because they were established in 2018-19 or, whenever the Chiefs won that first Super Bowl. And
I got 2 words for y'all. Elvis Gerback.
Exactly. Exactly. Listen, you could say somebody's name like, man, who's Priest Holmes? Priest Holmes was a bad man with jam, and they ain't even gonna know who he is. Who's that?
He was a problem for like 2-3 years in a row.
Who's that?
TD
you know
Machine.
What I'm saying?
number 31, dog.
I mean, yeah, bro. Like,
I'll say this.
People can move for whoever they want to, and when I repost this, I know there's going to be some people, they may not comment and be like, because they tend to get in their feelings about it. But I'm just saying, that's just my opinion. I don't like you any less for it. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your life, your team. I don't care about Taylor Swift being on TV. I don't, whatever. They flash to her every now and then. Ain't cool, whatever.
It's not 2 seconds out of your day, man.
Chill out. I don't. I'm not one of those guys who are like, oh, it ruin it. I don't care what. I mean, yeah.
I'll say this because it's not just Chiefs fans. Like I got this. We get this with Pats fans a lot because obviously there was a 20-year run with that. The Seahawks when they were good, and because I live in Alaska, because it's the most geographically close professional, especially football, in my proximity. I get people all the time saying that, oh, I love the Seahawks. And I go, when did you become a fan? That's always my first question. And then I ask them something along the lines of, well, do you know who Jim Zorn is? And if they go, who? I go, I thought so.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you know Cortez Kennedy? Yes or no?
Yeah. Number 1 draft pick. Like,
yeah.
I know that. Way across the country. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I just don't like that because, like, man, like you're a Bills fan, man. You struggled I mean, it ain't been much better for me, we bombed a lot of big games. Like, you went through that struggle, man. So you want to be able to enjoy the fruits of it. That's what makes it, And that's why when the Eagles won their first Super Bowl, I was crying a little bit.
Bro.
That's what it does to you. You went through the struggle, and now you see what happens.
Folks were putting that on me, and I was getting texts from people I haven't heard from in 3 years. Like you were texting, like you were telling me when Cowboys fans were texting you, I was getting texts from people I haven't heard from in years, and go, I hope you guys beat Kansas City. And it's because in the moment when I was 9 years old, 7, 8, 9 years old, and I didn't really care about football, and the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost. Y'all, the collective y'all, were poking fun at the Bills and Bills fans. Now you realize how hard it is to do it, and now you want to come back. And I'm not letting you interest the club that easily. I'm just not. I'm sorry.
Hey, man, I tell people all the time, when you pick your football team, it's like a non-violent game. Ain't no getting out. You either in or you out. And if you're in, you in for life. If you ain't, then go be a bandwagon. I don't care.
Go do that someplace else.
Yeah. You got to be true to something.
Right? America needs something that we can all fall back on. If it can't be being a one franchise fan, then God, what do we have to even hang our head on?
And this is not necessarily for women. I'm not trying to be derogatory. It's not necessarily for women because women could there's a lot of female Kansas City Chiefs fans. Gee, I wonder why. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. It's not even necessarily addressing them.
What? It's not because of Andy Reid.
I've seen women go for teams based off the color of their jersey. They don't take it as serious as we do. Some of them do.
Yeah,
I love them. I love them kind of women.
Typically, no, but yeah,
there's in the trenches with you. Yeah, but. So my comment's not necessarily for women because a lot of women are naturally bandwagon because they don't really embrace it as much as we do.
You better hope that Mac doesn't hear this.
I ain't studying Mac, man. I just gave women like Mac. I just gave them a compliment earlier. I was like, I like them kind of women. They in the trenches with you. Like that's what's up. But all these female Kansas City fans that wasn't fans beforehand, I'm not really worried about them. My comment was more addressed to the dudes around here that all of a sudden are Chiefs fans. And I'm like, come on, bro. That's not how that works.
The thing is, like, this is an entertainment product. What is wrong with somebody enjoying the entertainment product, even if they're only here for a good time, not a long time?
Right.
Stop actively playing defense against people's happiness.
That part I get. But here's another thing I'm gonna point out. If you are a bandwagon or you don't have a team,
here we go.
Don't be coming at people that actually ride and die for their team. Like that's you can't say a word, because that's when you get called out. That's when you get, you know what I'm saying? Real football fans just gonna come out the woodwork and just be like, wait a minute, motherfucker. Like,
that is true, because if you know that you occupy the lane of I'm here for only the entertainment purposes of Taylor Swift or whatever, you need to occupy that lane, where some of us take it
right there.
Now, some of y'all take it too seriously.
Exactly. That's my thing.
But if you occupy the I'm here for a good time, you better not cross-pollinate into the lane of people who take it too serious, because they will eviscerate you.
You can't cross paths with a real football fan if you like this team because of their colors.
If your jersey is bedazzled, I think that there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah. Or, I ain't gonna say nothing zesty, but if you're attracted to somebody on the team and you like the team, okay, that's cool. Just stay over there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even talking about them, but just bandwagon in general just sucks, especially if you're a dude. Stop it.
It does. And speaking of bandwagon, it's not necessarily a bandwagon take or even question necessarily, but it does mesh to the point of, I remember when people said you can't pay Saquon Barkley because running backs don't matter. And I know that the running backs don't matter analogy has been
where LaShawn at?
LaShawn wasn't able to make it with us today. he wasn't.
I want to talk to LaShawn.
He wasn't able to be here with us today. But I appreciate he let me know going forward. He's like, hey man, I'm not gonna be able to make the pod today. And I was like, all right, man, I appreciate you letting me know. But to me, like I still understand the thought process behind running.
I 100% understand. That's why I've never, Saquon's having this season, not one time have I said anything to LaShawn, because I legit understand what he's saying.
Right. CR says, I didn't know it was St. Patty's Day. Yo, man, every day is St. Patty's Day when you're Irish, bro. This is not anything new.
I guess so.
but I mean, so mostly when I'm talking about like the whole running backs don't matter thing, is that Giants fans were saying the Eagles are dumb for signing Saquon. And it's like, you do realize that he played for you guys with no offensive line at the time, no wide receivers, and Daniel Jones was your quarterback. You shouldn't have paid him, but your first mistake was paying Daniel Jones first. Daniel Joneses don't matter. Saquon does. So when he got to the Eagles, and when he was interviewed in the post-game press conference, and they're like, hey, did you think that you would get here by going to Philly? He goes, yeah, that's why I picked it.
Here, first of all,
three offensive line in football, AJ Brown, like, yeah, of course I thought we'd get here, dog.
Running quarterback. Well, not necessarily a running, but a mobile quarterback.
Mobile quarterback, sure.
But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would like to take the time out to thank the Giants organization and
Mariska
their fans and anybody who likes that cesspool of a franchise. Thank you for not appreciating Saquon Barkley. Us in Philly, you know what I'm saying? Your trash is our treasure. Hey,
I love how you
diving and found gold.
Oh my God! You said that your trash was our treasure, and it's so weird because
they treated him like he was trash.
Oh, they did. And the thing too is, like, when we talked about the talking heads and like, because Skip is a Cowboys dude and saying that Saquon won't win anything because look at what the stats he puts up. It's no, dude. offensive lines matter and running backs, and CR says most running backs don't matter. And that was my point. Most don't. There are some that do. He's one of the ones who does. He didn't matter to New York because that organization is cheeks. Across the board.
All the way across the board. I like Neighbors.
Right. They got Neighbors right.
They got Neighbors. They got I like their defensive end combination.
Oh, with Thibodeau and Lawrence?
And Burns.
Oh, Burns, that's right.
And Dexter Lawrence is a monster. So their D line isn't terrible. But other than that, they have nothing going for them. And that was just, I mean, you know who really needs to be fired? It's not even Dabo. Because look what he has. I believe that he's a good coach. Just my opinion.
The Morris to sell the Giants.
That GM needs to get fired. The owner straight up looked at him in his face and said, I will lose sleep if Saquon goes to the Eagles. He laughs at him. Like,
I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, you watch it's right there. You can watch it on the HBO, you know what series I'm talking about. Yeah.
Talking about quarterbacks or
no, what is the series where they show them in training camp and all that?
The Hard Knocks?
Hard Knocks, yes.
Okay.
Hard Knocks. There's a Hard Knocks on the Giants. Just watch it and see how they let Saquon go, man. It was
that's
I'm
ugly.
sitting there like, what are you guys doing? Like, what? They basically told him, man, go test the market and let us know what you got, and we would like for you to be a Giant, but type of deal. Like that was a conversation.
Yeah, that you can't start the conversation with we'd like for you to be here, but because once that but happens, it's all right, man. Well, if you're gonna show yo ass, I am too. I'm out.
They are the dumbest organization in the NFL as of today.
Really?
I believe so.
I mean, that's saying a lot because the Jets exist, the Jaguars exist.
Okay, I'll say this. You're right. You're right. I'll say this. They made the worst decision out of any front office in the NFL this year.
See, when they let Saquon go?
Yeah.
See, I don't think so, because what it would have done is, and only temporarily, because like it would have, had they had kept him, it would have been one more year of him getting trash stats, them being bad again, but they were bad even if they would have had him. And there's nothing that they would have been able to do to get anything for him. You might as well, if you weren't going to sign him and then try to get rid of him, the best thing, just let the man go and let him live his life. Like the Giants weren't going to do anything anyways. But
I understand that. What I look at it this way too. If you keep him, okay, you keep him that one more year. Now they realize they made a mistake with Daniel Jones. So you let Jones go, and if you can convince him, hey man, maybe not even through the draft, maybe through free agency or something like that. If there's a free agent quarterback come up, so hey, we can get this guy to come play with you. At least, I don't know, man. I would have gave him at least one more year.
Here's the thing that I'd be worried about though, is because we never got to see Saquon and Neighbors play together.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so you got Neighbors, you got Saquon. They replaced Daniel Jones with somebody else.
But they wouldn't have replaced Daniel Jones. That's my point, is like, had Saquon stuck around this year and you got to see what that trio could have been, it would have made Daniel Jones look a little bit better.
Probably would have made him look a little bit better. Yeah.
And then they would have been holding on to Daniel Jones another year because they're going to talk themselves into. I feel like that's what would have happened. Do we know? No. But I feel like he would have made it look.
I thought about that. I thought about that after I said it. Like maybe he would have made him look a little bit better. Instead of being a 2, he would be a 5 out of 10.
And it would have been.
Oh, well, that's enough. They're dumb enough organization, and we're really like, well, that's enough. It's good enough for us. Let's pay him another $50 million. Like, what are you?
Yeah, no shit, right?
Unbelievable.
But speaking about like, and so we went to Saquon, but I want to stay in division because the Commanders overachieved this year, went to the NFC Championship game, and up until the end of the third, it was at least close. right? Like it's a 2-possession game, but it's still within reach. Washington has the ball late in the third. But I never really felt like Washington had a chance. It was the same thing with Buffalo and Kansas City. The first drive of Buffalo, those 2 terrible passes and the fumble by Josh Allen, I'm like, all right, this doesn't feel good. Same thing with Saquon just running over dudes. This doesn't feel like they learned their lesson from the first 2 games. He's going to go for a $150 again. And what we do with these quarterbacks, we did the exact same thing with CJ Stroud last year. Is he's a top 5 quarterback, and people were anointing him that from the get-go, and he had a slump this year. And people are just dumbing it down to the Commandos will be back next year. But we thought that about Detroit, and they got bounced. I don't think that Washington is in a good position to get back to the NFC Championship game next year. You're going to see a regression. And maybe you don't, but that Washington team just overachieved. And sometimes these runs happen. I just don't think you can expect them to get back just because they were there this year.
Well, first off, that Saquon run on the first play, not the first play of the game, but the first play for the Eagles, first off.
Yeah.
Man, I kind of came out of my body, man. I yelled so bad. My Rottweiler, I scared my dog. He ran in the other room and sat on his bed. That joker didn't come out until the game was over, man. Until he decided that dad was quiet long enough for him to come back out here. He's looking at me like I was a psycho. And I probably looked like a psycho. That play right there, and I know it's stupid to say, but when I seen that happen, I said, these guys have zero shot. Now the crowd's into it. Now, this and that. I was like, they have zero shot to beat us today. We're on our game. Nobody can beat us today. That's the way I felt after that first play. But as far as the Commanders, man, I tell you what, I can't tell you you're wrong because it's happened so many times. Like last year, you mentioned Houston. It's not only CJ Stroud, but the whole team. They're going to be awesome next year.
Laramie Tunsil
this, that, and the third. Well, no, they're going home after 1 week of playoffs or 2 weeks of playoffs. That's right. What's going to happen. Detroit, you couldn't tell anybody Detroit wasn't going to the Super Bowl this year. Well, look what happened. So, do I think that they will be consistently above average just with their offense as long as nobody hires Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach again? Because he's a good
somebody's going to. Someone's going
and
to.
Somebody's
going to.
So that's why I put that in. As long as he doesn't get hired, I see them being an above average team just based off their offense. Their offense will keep them in games. If I was the Commanders, I would just draft defense almost the entire draft, because their defense is cheeks.
Oh, they're not great. I will put it as delicately as possible. I still think they need another actual wide receiver. They need to upgrade the offensive line. Eckler, like people forget that he led the league in touchdowns or was like 1 and 2 for back-to-back years within the last.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Eckler's a good third down back. I think their offensive line is solid. I mean, I don't think it's anything great, but receiver-wise,
yelling it.
The way with Kingsbury's offense, man, receiver-wise, I think they're okay. Could they use one? Probably. Do you waste your first 2 picks on one? I don't know.
I don't think so. No,
because their defense is so bad,
Right. I think it all depends on who falls to you. It's just everyone keeps telling me that you've got to get elite wide receivers, and I keep telling y'all, well, who are your top 10 wide receivers? And every time I ask that question, I get 40 different answers.
Of course.
Because they're everywhere, man. You can always get somebody, and is your coaching good enough to get the best out of it?
With it being more of a passing game now than ever, receivers are everywhere. And I do mean everywhere. So, yeah. I feel like they should use their first 2-3 picks on defense, because I'll tell you what, there wasn't a thing that we couldn't do to them that we didn't. They didn't stop us from doing anything. Like nothing. Yeah. And that goes back to all 3 games this year against them.
No, Philly did whatever the hell they wanted to the entire.
I mean, they did whatever the hell they wanted to, when they wanted to, how they wanted to do it. Washington just had the ball last the game before the playoff game. That's all it amounted to. But
CR makes the point too that they've got $90 million in cap space, which is going to be, and I think if this was still under Dan Snyder's rule and his thumb, that 90 million wouldn't have meant anything.
Right. Oh God.
But with the new ownership, and then you've got Jaden showing what he is, that 90 million all of a sudden means something, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely does. Soon as I seen Snyder leave, and I was praying that they would draft Caleb Williams, I was praying that the Bears would take Jaden Daniels. Why? Because I didn't want to deal with Jaden Daniels. I knew. Now, did I think it? No, I'm just being real. I don't want to deal with him for the next at least 4 or 5 years. I mean, no, I don't want to deal with him. I'd rather deal with Caleb Williams, but it didn't happen that way. Once all that happened, I knew that they would be so much better because I felt like they had a couple pieces already. They just wasn't being used right for whatever reason. And now I think they'll be legit, but I can't disagree with you, man, because people always say, well, they're going to go get back next year, bro. No, you don't know that.
We also, and the thing is, I know that I personally have been more critical of Dan Campbell than most. Okay. I understand that that's the position that I've decided to occupy, and I really haven't moved off it much. I was late to the Detroit is good party because I like to see some kind of return on my investment emotionally before I just say, like we did with all these other young quarterbacks, I'd rather have at least a little bit of time to know.
Sure.
About midway through this season, I said, okay, I know that Detroit is good. I know they're good, but I still don't trust Dan Campbell. And when they lose both their coordinators, what are you going to look like next week or next year? But we saw last year, everyone saying, well, the Detroit Lions can only get back. And Dan Campbell had even said, which I appreciate his honesty, you don't know if you're ever going to get back here. And Detroit may never.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably will because like history has not been written completely yet. But I mean, given what they were before the last 700 days of existence, it would lead you to believe that they're not getting back there anytime soon.
Yeah. You couldn't tell anybody that they wasn't going to the Super Bowl.
I picked. I know it doesn't mean anything, but I picked Chiefs Eagles before the season started. Not that anybody
you did, and remember the very first episode we did. I'm glad you brought that up.
I do remember
first episode because I remember you said that, and also remember I said that they would go 14-3 or 13-4, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't make the Super Bowl. It's all there in the same.
Here we go, baby. We are your sports seances and whatever the hell, whatever adjectives you want to throw at us.
Whatever you want to pull. And you can go back and look at the first episode. You can check it on Chopping It Up with P. Scott, or you can check it on my page. It's on there. It's in his day. So you can do what you wish with that, but ain't nobody lying.
Now, I did say, because the thing for me is when this season started, I don't like doing team versus the field. I really don't. But I've been right about Kansas City the last 3 years, and I said this is the least confident I feel in this version of the Chiefs going forward. I picked them against the field. I didn't feel great about it, but here we are with them not playing great basically the entire season, but finding ways to win because no, the refs don't help them cheat. Y'all can stop with that. And then the Eagles, because they just have so much damn talent. I thought Vic Fangio was going to be the reason why that team got turned around at some point in time, and they did.
I don't think people understand how important he is to the Eagles team. We were no higher than probably like 20th, maybe in any defensive category last year. We were cheeks on defense.
But the year beforehand, it was like you had all pro years from like 7 different dudes.
Yeah, which was crazy, but you know, he's not a coach for the Arizona Cardinals, and he's not doing a terrible job, to be honest. But Jonathan Gannon, I wasn't a fan of him, especially in the Super Bowl, but facts are facts. In 2022, we had a pretty good defense. We had like 70-something sacks, I believe.
Yeah, it was high 60s or something stupid at least.
But this defense that we have now, I feel like is better than that one. Even though that one produced more sacks, I feel like overall, because I always felt that corners was our weak spot in there. And yeah, it's a good thing we had 70 something sacks because halftime our corners were burnt toast. The QB just didn't have time to get it to him, you know? And that's what happened in the Super Bowl. For whatever reason, they had time. And Mahomes, you know, he didn't have the best stats, but he made timely throws because our corners weren't as great as advertised. That was more the defensive line getting pressure. Now, I feel like we're better on the outside. We don't get as big as a pass rush, but we get enough of a pass rush. I feel like our linebackers are better. I just feel better about our defense
I think
overall.
that you should too. And that's the thing. Like sacks for me is, are they great? Yes, because obviously you lose the down, you lose the yardage, right? Like that's a pivotal part of it, and I understand that. But for people who just dumb it down to, okay, if you get 70 sacks, that's basically one full game of snaps, right? Throughout
Right,
the entirety of a season, 70 times you were able to do that.
right.
Cool. But I look at almost the exact same way that I do with steals in the NBA or interceptions. Like, congratulations, you averaged 2 steals a game, but how many times were you getting cooked back door? James Harden almost led the league
Well,
in
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
it's cool that you
That's
have
what
these
I'm
things, but
saying.
getting pressure is just as good as getting the sack at most
Exactly.
part of the time.
And I would rather take the defensive line we have now, with the corners we have. Now, if we had the defensive line from 2022 with these corners, Jesus Christ. I mean,
That would have been that's
you know, yeah, but
yeah.
stuff doesn't work out that way. And I feel like that Jalen Carter right now is a better player than anybody on that defensive line from 2022, including Reddick, who had like 17 sacks. Jalen Carter's just a
He's stupid good.
he's going to make me break my rules on the Eagles jerseys. I am this close.
To buying a defensive player?
No, I got plenty of defensive players, but you got to be with the
Georgia?
team for a long time. You got to cement your name. Like I got Fletcher Cox jerseys, but I don't have a Jalen Carter jersey yet.
I thought it was more of a I thought it was more of a Georgia.
It's more of a because people with free agency and all that and this, that, and the third, or somebody, you know, they might piss me off during a big moment or something. But for the most part, I only buy Eagles Legends jerseys. And it doesn't even have to be a legend per se that everyone knows. Like, for instance, I love John Runyon. A lot of people don't know who John Runyon is, but he
Offensive lineman.
started
He
left
all decade
tackle
in
for
the
the Eagles
2000s,
for
isn't he?
years, and he played for Michigan. Well, that means something to me. So, yeah, stuff
So
like
there we
that.
are.
Yeah, I don't. But Jalen Carter, I'm this close to getting your jersey and not caring if you go to another team because you're that good.
If he around and wins Super Bowl MVP because he has like 3 sacks, you're gonna have that in your Amazon cart.
It's gonna take much more for me to get it. I'm already. I ain't gonna lie.
It's in your cart, isn't it? It's in your cart. You just gotta push the payment option.
No comment.
All right. Let me ask you something. I guess we'll because I want to get to CR real quick. I know that he just bailed out for a second, but he was saying Jared Goff is the reason why the Lions will never make it to the Super Bowl. I agree with that because it's just like all these things, man. They always come full circle of. I know that this is a team game. We don't have to perpetually beat that dead horse of we understand that, but it is also the reason why I don't have any issue with Kansas City beating Buffalo because all year long, what they have done is win the way they need to win. And they win on third down and they win in the fourth quarter and they do the right play. And Jared Goff doesn't do that. The entire season, that man was good. And I said, wait until week 17, 18, and 19 or 20, basically. Same thing with Sam Darnold. These guys are going to let you down, man. Mahomes don't let you down.
Goff, I didn't really like. He made those mistakes. Was I expecting it? Not necessarily. was I baffled and surprised by it? Like, oh my God, no.
No.
So again, I land somewhere in the middle of that. I expected them to have a way better game against them because remember, I seen my team play against the Commanders twice already before the playoffs because that's
Right.
how division games work. And I thought he would have a field day against them throwing that ball, but he was late on his throws. They decided to let a receiver throw the ball and the trick running too many trick plays. Hey, you try to get cute. You dress up to get cute. Usually you'll get, you know what I'm saying, the F word. So when you dress up to get cute, sometimes you get the F word. You get so.
And it's just.
That's what happened to the Lions.
Well, and that's why, like, this is why I don't trust him either, because one, the being too cute too often, but it's dope. Jahmyr Gibbs was averaging like 8 yards a carry.
What are you doing? Give him the ball.
It's just so frustrating, man. Like, and this is what I talk about every single time we get to this point of the season. It's if you break script, you are gonna get. You need to stick. If it got you there, it doesn't mean be predictable, but ride it until it's not there anymore. Maybe you go play action more than you usually do. Maybe you go under center more than you would usually. Right. But like your team core principles need to be intact. And these teams always get too cute. And the ones who are in the Super Bowl right now stick to what they know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, yeah. I think I had this conversation on your page, actually, the Chopping Up with P. Scott page with the guy. And then the end, he ended up agreeing with me. But at first, I don't think he understood what I was trying to say. Not that he's not intelligent, but I just brought him a different perspective that no one else had ever said to him. You know, I was
these
like,
things
hey,
through text can be kind of goofy to read, right? You have no, like, there's no,
right. Sometimes it's, so I'm not saying he's like illiterate or nothing. It's just, sometimes it's hard to read, through Facebook what people are really trying to say. But I told him, I was like, hey, man, basically what we were just talking about, we stick to what we know. Jalen Hurts doesn't need to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns for us to win. What we know is we probably have the best offensive line in the league. I know we have the best running back in the league. And we have a mobile quarterback. Therefore, why do you want me to put the ball in the air 35 times a game? Are you are you dumb? No. Well, I mean, I don't understand why people don't understand that quarterbacks don't have to have these amazing. Patrick Mahomes beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl 2 years ago with 170 yards passing. Jalen Hurts had the better game.
His stat line, it dwarfs what Patrick Mahomes did in the Super Bowl. But who got the W?
Who got the W?
But see, and this is
who
why
turned the ball over.
This is why all of these arguments are infuriating to me, because
it's so ignorant, man.
Because like what you just said, man, do you want him to throw for 500 yards every single game, but then get bounced in the playoffs earlier because it further bolsters your, hey, he's a top 5 quarterback because he has better stats? Or are we supposed to value championships? Are we supposed to, like, this is all so dumb, because whatever you as the fan, whatever you personally feel, when it gets to your doorstep of, oh, there's a conflict now, you just want to switch teams and go. Like we talk about bandwagon, you want to switch teams to, oh, he had 600 yards passing or 500 yards passing. He's the reason why they almost won. Well, almost didn't get it done. Why are we changing? Why are we switching it up now?
Exactly what I'm saying.
That's all it is for me, man.
I'll give you
stay consistent.
I'll give you the most amazing stat about that. And I'm glad he understood me, because I didn't even want to have to bring this stat out. But last week, Jalen Hurts threw for 200 plus yards. I don't know the exact amount of yards. Okay. It was over 200. That was the first time Jalen Hurts has won a playoff game with passing over 155 yards.
Is it really?
Each time he's passed for over that, they have lost. They lost in the Super Bowl. They lost last year against Tampa Bay. I don't even know if he had those stats for that game, to be honest, but he had to have passed for over 150 in that game because they were 3-0 in the playoffs with Hurts, or 4-0 with him passing for under 200 yards. And it was actually like under 155.
Yeah, it's to me, it's such a, we just moved the goalpost to support our argument we want to have at that point in time, because that's the thing. Like when we look at Josh Allen's stats, statistically in the playoffs, he has been awesome.
Right.
No Super Bowl appearances, but we build up Lamar, or we break down Lamar when the Ravens lose, but we don't do it with Josh. Like
Right.
Joe Burrow's that dude because we think he's cool and he's the only other person besides Tom Brady to beat Patrick Mahomes, and we put him on a pedestal and they didn't even make the playoffs this year, but you want to put him in the MVP conversation. How are those two things supposed to coexist with each other? Like,
and I like Joe Burrow, man.
I do too,
I
man.
think he's a great talent, man, but you can't have a guy in the MVP race that didn't even make the playoffs for whatever reason they didn't make it, because I know they lost a lot of close games.
Well, and the thing for me is like I'm okay with it because I look at sports completely different than most people do. I still hold really dear to my heart that the year that the Colts went 1-15, the Curtis Painter year, that Peyton Manning should have won MVP and didn't take a snap. I will die on that hill, bro. Like I don't know.
I'm only laughing at you because that's my Jalen Hurts argument sometimes. It's like, okay, well, let's see how good we are without him. And the Eagles have enough talent to make it look halfway decent without him. But for instance, that second Commanders game when he went out and Kenny Pickett came in, Kenny Pickett's not a threat to run on a zone read. So who the hell you think he's giving the ball? Man, they stacked the line so bad against us. That was the worst half of football Saquon's had the whole year because there was no threat to pull it back. You see, so it's not all about passing. It's not all everybody cheated up, pressing receivers and stuff, because I don't believe you can hit a receiver, Kenny Pickett. I don't believe that you're going to pull it and run with it, Kenny Pickett, but Hurts will.
Now,
We got to be cautious of Hurts, but Pickett, no, we're going to stack the line. We're going to press receivers. We're going to make your life a living hell because prove to me that you can beat me.
Pickett will only do it when he's in college and he has that fake slide still in his back pocket to get drafted in the first round but never do anything with it. He's always got that in the back pocket.
To this day, man, I ain't no hater, bro. That was the slickest move.
That was slick as hell. I mean, I appreciate him getting down for the cause. Like I appreciate it, but it's also like, yo, you made yourself a name.
Yo, that was slick. Yo,
I thought it was too, but like the NFL is going to have some issues with that going forward with all these like fake slides or taking them too low or taking them too late. You know, there's always just going to be somebody who complains about it. Like that's a topic for another day. Right. Justin says, what Josh Allen slander did I miss? I mean, I'm pretty consistent, and I was fair, Mr. Uncle Phil. Don't you think I was fair?
I'll put two hands up. That was pretty fair.
I feel like I was fair. I do what I do, but you know,
had an apology.
I did do that. You'll just have to listen to the entire thing, Justin, for all of its what it's worth.
He did,
but
he did have an apology. I told him not to.
Look, man, I'm a river to my people. Like,
yeah, you're a good man because you have no reason to apologize. That's the way you feel.
I appreciate that, man. Well, I do want to say, like, we are, you know, a week and some change away from the Super Bowl. And I know that there's going to be a lot of things that still come out, a lot of new stories. There could be injuries that pop up. There could be anything wild. Andy Reid's kid could get in another car accident. We have no idea. Right. But what are you expecting? Because that's one of the things that we've talked about here a lot is if these teams stay to what they know, this game should at least be close. This shouldn't be a blowout. Right. But we've come to the point of you and I both understand, and I appreciate this because Matt Sierra, who follows this page and he's a big Bills fan, doesn't always like my Josh Allen takes either. But I appreciate and I come from a similar thought process when it comes to Jalen Hurts, is because we had this conversation between Jalen and Lamar Jackson. Actually, before I do that, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I had somebody say if Jalen wins his Super Bowl, it automatically propels him better than Lamar Jackson. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I always hate these narratives of like one game sample sizes is going to sway your perception of who you think is better automatically. The game shouldn't matter, right? We are years into both of these men's careers. If you think, and look, it's all about what you think. If you think Lamar Jackson is an exponentially better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, who I individually do believe, Jalen Hurts winning a Super Bowl does not propel him to a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson in my eyes. Does he have the ring and the hardware? Sure. But I think collectively, because the 2.5 MVPs, because he hasn't been anointed yet, leads everybody collectively to believe that we think that he's a better individual quarterback. So one, do you think Jalen Hurts is better than Lamar Jackson? And two, winning a Super Bowl, does it propel him obviously to be being better than Lamar Jackson if he gets there? And then the Super Bowl stuff. And I got sidetracked because that's what I do with my ADHD. I have the floor, sir. Sorry.
Jalen Hurts better than Lamar Jackson.
Oh man, I got you stumped on that.
Hey, no, it's not that. Okay, it's not that I'm stumped. I don't want to give you the truthful answer. You know why I don't want to answer this question, because it's gonna hurt my. It's like feeling suicide. Like, okay, y'all know where my allegiance lies. Tattoos, background. I'll take you around the tour to the Eagles room. Hey, everybody knows since I was 9-10 years old, Tony Burton, Uncle Philadelphia, the Birdman, is always going to ride with the Eagles. However, if we're being 100% honest, anybody who said that is a complete idiot. And this is why. Jalen Hurts is an overachieving quarterback.
I want to preface this with they don't think that he's better than him now, but they are saying that if the Eagles win a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter if it is because of him or in spite of him. If he has the hardware, ipso facto, Jalen Hurts is better than Lamar Jackson. And I agree with Madden saying that is not how any of this works.
That's absolutely asinine. And I will
because
tell you why
Trent Dilfer's better than Jim Kelly and Dan Marino by that logic. Can we stop that?
There's 1,000 examples of why this is asinine. I've known quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls that couldn't carry the jocks of quarterbacks in the quarterback room. And what I mean by in the quarterback room is I've seen better quarterback rooms from first, second, and third string quarterbacks than some of these quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl. Now, is Jalen Hurts a bum? Absolutely not. And I'm sick of that slander too. Sure. Just because he doesn't pass for 300 yards. He is not a bum. I feel like he's an above average quarterback. But you have your tiers of quarterbacks, sure, and he's not on that. To say that he's on that tier with, Lamar or Mahomes, Burrow,
Josh Allen, because I will be nice about it too.
Allen, no, that's. I mean, I can't be that damn biased. I would be lying if I said
he's a starting quarterback. He's a starting level caliber quarterback.
The only time, and I will say this too, the only time the championships matter is when the players are almost even or, on the same tier. If you got a guy I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is a tier 3. I'm not using my quarterback for this example. I'm just using an example, not my quarterback. This ain't about Jalen Hurts.
Right.
If you got a quarterback that's tier 3 and you got a quarterback that's tier 1, I don't give a shit how many rings the third tier quarterback has. I don't care. It's a team accomplishment at the end of the day. It takes 52 guys, actually way more than that, practice squad coach. It takes a whole organization to win a championship. Now, if I have 2 tier 1 quarterbacks and this quarterback has 5 rings, this quarterback has 2 rings, well, give me the one with the 5. Because they're both on the same tier. This guy's got more rings,
I mean,
So that ring argument can only work in certain instances.
It only carries you so far in certain predicaments. And even still, I have a really hard time even doing that because, man, Terry Bradshaw has been on TV just as long as I've been alive.
Right.
And nobody considers him to be a great quarterback. They consider that to be an all-time great defense. And but they don't consider Terry Bradshaw the reason why they won those games, really. Justin says it killed you to say, Alan. No, it didn't, dude. I did it grinning ear to ear, baby. I was all smiles when I said Alan in that conversation, the top fives.
Well, I ain't about Jalen Hurts. I'm not all smiles.
No, you ain't.
But I had to tell the truth, man. I mean,
I think it's fine because that's the thing that I try to put into instill in people, man. Like it doesn't have to be dumbed down to this Neanderthal thing of it's a team sport. Yeah, I think we all kind of know that, but there are levels to all of this.
Yeah.
And to me, if Jalen Hurts, even if he plays out of his mind, like he goes 500 yards, 5 tuds, and no picks, and they beat the brakes off of Kansas City, I don't think that he's better than Lamar. I think he, in a 1-game sample size without Lamar Jackson playing, was better than him because he wasn't there.
Right.
But I'm not instantly just swaying my vote from who's the better quarterback from Lamar to Jalen Hurts at all. But he does what they need him to do, which is part of what being a quarterback is.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. The whole thing about Jalen Hurts is he makes timely throws. And when he has to, like the 4th and 7, I don't think people realize how big of a play that was. That's getting swept under the rug because of the final score and because of the way the final score looks. That game was 14-12. It was 4th and 7, I believe. And the Eagles were, I think they were on the Commanders' 40-yard line, maybe.
So I didn't watch the game in its entirety. I do know that it was a 2-possession game, but it was like a 12 or 13 point game, like towards the end of the third, and Washington still had the ball.
Right. It was actually
gimme. It wasn't a gimme game, but they broke it open in the 4th.
Yes. It was 14-12 in the second quarter at this point, and it was 4th and 7 and Hurts. You know, they tried to blitz him, which people say you can't read a blitz. They blitzed him and left AJ out there one-on-one, and he throws an absolute perfect pass. He could have walked it to him against the blitz on 4th down. That's what I mean by timely throws, or he can make the throw, or when he's forced to make a throw, he can make the throw. That's why I'm not worried about if he passes for 300 yards or not, because it plays like that.
I am worried. The only thing I'm really, and I have to hang it up because I actually have to leave in the next, 10 minutes or so. I got to go get my kid from school. But so I do want to get to this one because we kind of get sidetracked on this, but even though we're basically, 2 full weeks essentially from the Super Bowl, it comes back down to, if I have to rely on Jalen Hurts to break character and be the 45-time drop back and throw guy, I don't feel good about it. So I've been somebody who has been very critical of Nick Sirianni. I don't have any problem saying that. But they find ways to win. I don't feel like I'm in the wrong for being as critical as I have been of him, because I don't understand half the things that he does or what his reasoning is, but they still find a way to win because I do trust the talent. I trust Vic Fangio most specifically. And it feels like it'd be really hard to mess up that offense when you have Saquon and Brown and Smith and Goddard and Hurts, when that cheat code of a play, if you need less than 2.5 yards. Do you think do you feel like they can stick to the script, or do you see Sirianni panicking? Because that's what I worry about, man. I worry about that dude losing his cool, then breaking character, and not riding Saquon, because I feel like that is Saquon, Gainwell, and then use Hurts every once in a while.
I'll tell you what the things that I worry about going into this game, and in particular, what I worry about going into every Eagles game this year. First of all, our kicking game is not what it used to be. it's not getting swept under the rug between Eagles fans. Because here's another crazy stat for you: every time Jake Elliott misses a extra point or field goal, the Eagles have won the game.
No way.
Look it up. Another strange stat from you from the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, this is why I promise you that all Eagles fans are going to have a heart attack.
That you said that's for this year.
That's for this year, and all together.
Elliott misses a kick.
He didn't miss a field. Okay, so all year this year, this was his first postseason miss. This year, okay, and every field goal or extra point he's missed this year during the season, including the playoffs, I think they're like 6-0, 7-0.
Dude, that's wild.
That's wild. That's a test to the talent. But this is what I'm saying. You can't do that against KC. You can't afford to do that. This is, this is Drago. One slip up, dog. And hey, if he dies, he dies. Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, you can't do that against him. I'm concerned about our kicking game. I'm concerned about this may sound weird, but I'm a little bit concerned about our play calling because of what you just said, because it's a Super Bowl, because it's such a big game. If Saquon doesn't have the half that he's supposed to have, and the Eagles are down 10 points.
This is why they're
down 10 points at halftime, and Saquon has 40 yards rushing. Are you going to go off the grid?
Right.
Or are you going to continue? Because eventually, I don't care who you are. I feel like our offensive line is good enough to where eventually he's just going to pop.
We'll see. And that was kind of like
going to be for more than one time.
The reason why I finally admitted it took me longer to get on the Detroit train was when they had the 5 turnover game against Houston and they still won. It's because they didn't panic. They stuck to the run game. They stuck to the ground. They did what got them there, and it pulled them out of the trenches, and they were able to do it. With Sirianni, and especially because I don't think that enough people put this into perspective, is these two teams, like the rosters aren't exactly the same, but they just met each other 2 years ago.
Right.
Like, I feel like that is going to make Nick Sirianni get too far ahead of himself. And
here's my thing. I feel like there's enough pain from that Super Bowl loss from the players on the Eagles that he hopefully doesn't have to get to that maddening level of, or that panicking level of
mad scientist.
We're down this X amount of points. Like, no, dude, don't panic. The Eagles just need to stick to the script. If they stick to the script, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Nick Sirianni doesn't look in the bag and go, "Hey guys, where's that 16-point play that we drew up?"
Yeah,
like that's what I'm worried about, man. Trying to get it all back in one chunk, and you just can't, man.
Yeah, because I feel like our offensive line could play with anybody. That's just
for sure.
I've said this several times on the show. I just feel like that's going to be a key. Now, I will tell you that Chris Jones,
he's a bad man.
Inside too, where you seen what Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson was looking like, but I feel like 2 weeks of rest and all that, they'll be fine. They'll be good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris, that's another concern. Chris Jones.
Y'all can't let that white dude last name Karlaftis get after you either, because he made people look stupid in the Houston game.
Hey man, these guys can play. There's a reason why they're going for a three-peat. I just feel like we got the kryptonite, which is keeping the ball out of Mahomes' hands, stopping them on some of those third downs.
Right.
And basically controlling the clock and running our offense. I feel like we can do it against anybody. I feel like we play better run defenses and had success too. But I know this is a Super Bowl and anything can happen, but Eagles, just be yourselves. You'll be fine. I promise.
I feel like that was one of the things that I mentioned when I was criticizing Buffalo, and it's not just Josh Allen. If you want to just put it there, you can. But I criticize their offensive play calling, and I think that we can sometimes as fans get too far ahead of that when we blame play calling when we really don't even know what we're talking about.
Right.
But my issue has always been they don't have the ability to do anything if Josh just doesn't do it on his own. So like when the Eagles had their 98 play drive like 4 or 5 weeks ago, so if Buffalo had to put together a 10 play or 10-minute drive just
they kept the ball for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and that's my thing is like they did it because they needed to and wanted to show that they could.
Yep.
Buffalo just doesn't care. They're like number 17, put it on your back and just go do it. And they're trying to throw Josh Allen just like they're just trying to cram him down people's throats. And it's like they've been the best version of themselves when they don't make him do that.
Right. That's not the way we do business in Philly. We'll give you a lethal injection. They ain't gonna kill you just right offhand. We gonna make you suffer.
Yeah, for sure.
And then knock you out. And then knock you out when you're on your last leg. So
for sure. I'll tell you what, I gotta scoot out of here, man.
Yep.
I appreciate you being on. That was Uncle Philadelphia Eagles fan. I'm gonna have him back on again, I'm sure, before the actual Super Bowl is going on. We'll try to have LaShawn Brown not duck this invite next time too.
Yeah, quit ducking me, LaShawn. Quit ducking me. Hey, I gotta do something though.
Before we get out of here though.
Underdogs this week.
Let's go.
Underdogs, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Philly. Let's go. I ain't done yet. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh my God. All right. Let's go. You can get the podcast wherever you get your audio platform podcast. Good Lord, you won't be able to see that.
Let's go.
Follow the Chop Fed It Up with P. Scott page or the Playbook podcast on YouTube if you want to see what Uncle Philadelphia just did to rep the Birds as strongly as he could. You guys know the drill.
Go Birds.
Stay up, stay blessed. That was Uncle Philadelphia. Thank you so much for your time, man.
All right,
we'll
baby.
catch you guys on the next one.